Hi, my name is Jimmy Williams with NFL Draft Diamonds. And here with me today, I have Leon Johnson. He is a wide receiver out of Oklahoma State. Nice to have you on, buddy.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Really, what we need to know here is we have a guy who's, let's just face it, has some good measurables that really translate well to the game of football. Big, tall guy, long arms, big hands. Very successful at the D3 level, and ended up transferring up to Oklahoma State of all places, where you had a few games where you really showcased your talent this past season. So,
Sure.
but Leon, let's go ahead and kind of start from the beginning. Tell us where you're from and get us started with all this. Just introduce yourself.
All right. Well, I'm Leon Johnson III, son of Sarah and Leon Johnson Jr. I'm from Bothell, Washington, where I played at Bothell High School. I was there. I grew up here my entire life. I moved here when I was 18 months. So from the time I can remember, I lived here. I played football and baseball all throughout from kindergarten throughout high school and then even into some of George Fox. And out of high school, I was getting recruited. I didn't do like all those camps and stuff that a lot of guys do, like 7-on-7 camps or get rated or anything. And so I wasn't really marketing myself like a lot of guys at my age at that time were doing. And
Sure.
so I wasn't really getting all that attention that a lot of guys were working to get. And so I was in the mentality, I just want to continue playing the sports I love. And whoever will take me, I'll go and do that. And I was also almost thought to be a student because I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue that student athlete path, but I ended up doing it. And George Fox came and talked to us, Coach John Bates, who's the DC at George Fox, now the assistant head coach. He recruited me there, and he was like, if you want to come play football here, I promise you we'll let you play baseball too. And all the schools in that Northwest Conference, so like Pacific, Lewis and Clark, Linfield is probably the most popular one that might ring some ears. They all were recruiting me for both sports, and I just enjoyed George Fox the most, just the coaches, the environment, and ended up there. Really enjoyed my time there, met some great friends and everything. And freshman year, I started all games and had about 400 something yards. And then that 2020 season with COVID got moved to the spring. And I chose to play baseball because they had a full season and we played 2 seasons there or 2 games against the same team. And so I chose the full season. And then junior season had about 500 yards. And before that season, my coach told me, or before that next season, he said, we will get you the ball more. Like we need to get you that ball more. And so then going into that season, I told myself I wanted to be an All-American because my dad was an All-American at Central Washington for basketball. And at that time, they were NAIA. And so I told myself I wanted to beat him a little bit. D3, I feel like technically is a little higher than NAIA, depending on how you look at it. And then
Tomato, tomato.
no, yeah. And so then I made that goal happen, had 1,100 yards my senior year, or I guess what's considered my junior year with football, and ended up talking to Chris Hobbs, who was the West Coast scout at with the Chargers, and he told me that I could either enter the transfer portal and see what happens, or they could send me to the Portland State Pro Day. And he said some teams might be willing to take you on as a free agent. And he said if you really blow it up there and you get lucky, you might get a 7th round draft pick. But he was like, I'm not going to put words in your mouth or give you any ideas, but the transfer portal may be the better option, but you can go with either one. It's really up to you. And so then I entered the transfer portal. Didn't really hear anything for about 2 weeks, and Josh Gonzalez called me on a Wednesday and said, "Hey, we have a flight booked for you on Friday. Are you ready? You want to come down?" And I was like, "All right, let's do it." And I went there. They gave me an offer. It was a great visit. Met Casey Dunn. Met Coach Gundy. None of the players were there, unfortunately, because I came on their winter break, so they were all at home and stuff with their families. And I after I posted on X, old Twitter, that I got an offer from there. U of A, Arizona, and SDSU gave me offers, and I just decided that Oklahoma State was the team that found me and the team that put me on the map a little bit, or put me on the map with those other teams. And so I was like, I'm gonna go there. And knowing that my receiver, like the technical skills were a little underdeveloped, I knew Casey Dunn's background and the people he had coached before. so I ended up there, and that was where I played this last season at.
Yeah, I mean, Leon, I mean, definitely there at George Fox, you have yourself in a position where you ended there very well. I mean, over 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns, and like you said, finished up there as an All-American. But yeah, I mean, Division III guy, even though you are a big guy, maybe not a lot of people knew much about you. And maybe
Yeah,
I think in the long run, you probably did the best thing you could, which is really just, enter the portal and bet on yourself. And obviously, Oklahoma State, they wanted you. Dude, if you're going to pay for someone's flight to, from the state of Washington down to Oklahoma, you obviously are, serious.
no,
So
yeah,
let's be real. Obviously those things aren't cheap. Yes, they are a program with lots of money too. So hey, whatever. Um, but yeah, they gave you the opportunity. And like you said, I mean, early on, maybe didn't, I don't know how to market yourself or something. I mean, I don't know if
yeah,
that's the correct term or not, but I
oh
mean,
yeah,
guys like you occasionally do slip through the cracks. Let's be real. Either that or you have late growth spurts or something, which I don't know if you did, man. Because I mean, you have a guy who's almost 6'5". I mean, maybe people weren't looking at you as a football prospect because
oh
you're a
yeah.
really big baseball guy
Mhm.
in high school. Was that kind of part of the whole recruiting process? Did you like really want to play both sports, at the collegiate level at first?
Well, so I didn't think that that D1 was really my path. Like I never really heard anything, or wasn't no schools were really talking to me. And so I was like, if I'm gonna go D3, then I feel like at that level I'd easily be able to manage my time and stuff with that. And so as soon as that was really the choice, as soon as that was the path I knew I was taking, it was immediately I want to play both sports if I'm able to.
Yeah, and guys aren't necessarily given those options at the D1 level. There are
Oh yeah.
very, very, very few players and obviously teams that will allow you to do both. It's
Yeah.
very rare, but certainly at the Division II, Division III level, certainly possible. And so, again, as I was doing my research on you, found that you had played there, played some baseball. But I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about baseball, dude. Talking about your baseball days, some of your highlights and anything that you want to share, kind of, with that journey.
No, yeah. So in high school, it really was. I really did want to play more baseball in college at that time in high school. I don't know what it was, but I really just enjoyed like it was my passion there for a while. And so I was playing for a club called FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes here in Washington, and they're really good at getting their guy like the guys that want to play in college into some school. And so the like George Fox was put on my map because one of my coach's sons played at George Fox, and so that was the first time I'd really heard of them. We put on their live stream when we went to our spring training little camp that we did in Arizona. And but I always wanted to be a pitcher. I never really got that pitching development. Everybody always says I have the arm for it and I have the body for it because my arms are longer and the whip and stuff. And so, but that never really took its course. And so I played outfield. I preferred center field, but because I had a stronger arm than most kids, they put me in right just because that's where the strongest arm goes. And that was played right field for the rest of my career at George Fox. Hit a couple home runs. That's probably my favorite thing about that. But a little bit of a bad fact. I am like tied for third place for the most strikeouts in a single season at George Fox.
Yeah, probably not, something that we need to highlight too much, but certainly there was a good reason why football was more your path. You
No,
know,
yeah,
you get a guy who, yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice to be able to play another sport, but you did the best in football. Let's just be real, and that put you on the map really early on. Giving you the opportunity to go out there for George Fox and just do well
sure.
overall. So let's continue to talk about you and your journey again. Transferred to Oklahoma State from George Fox. Now, let's be real, big difference, jumping from D3 to the Division 1 level. Um, Talk about it for people who don't really get it because it's a big deal.
No, yeah.
So, talk about some of the differences and maybe even how you were used, moving up.
I think that the biggest difference you really see, like, right when you get there is just the facilities and stuff. Like, George Fox had nice facilities for a D3 program. Like, we had our own, like, big locker room with wood, like, custom lockers and stuff. But as soon as you step onto Oklahoma State's facilities and their campus, like, you see where that difference comes from. It's like, we were doing meetings at George Fox in classrooms, and we would go and find a math classroom or a science classroom that was big enough to have the receivers and quarterbacks go into. And so that's and really and also nutrition. Like, they wanted you to they wanted me to get bigger at George Fox, but I was the one paying for my food and stuff there, and there weren't really facilities for me to go and, oh, I want this snack and I want this food, and it's not really possible. But at OSU, you go and they have the training table, which is our little food place, like the cafeteria for athletes, and then we have a nutrition station in our weight room with Uncrustables, protein shakes, like any snack that's nutritious and has a lot of calories that you can just take as much as you want based on what you're trying to gain or lose or what you're trying to do with your body. And so those are two of the biggest things that really make a difference is just like the facilities and the fact that you can get all the food you want to be able to make your body the way that it needs to be to succeed in the sport. And then you notice that there's a lot more media coverage. Like when I got that offer, I didn't think I was like, oh, it's just football. Like nobody's gonna really pay attention to it. Because I'm not that avid of a sports watcher. I don't really realize a lot of that stuff until I got into that world. And so like then I noticed like, oh, there's articles being written about this. There's people angry, like too many people angry about this. Like, why are you like I'm just at that time I was 20, I think, or 21 maybe. I was like hating on a 21-year-old kid because he's trying to like get out of D3 and go to a bigger level and chase his dream a little bit. And then you get into practice and then you notice it's just a lot faster. Like it's not I wouldn't say it's too much different in terms of like the feel, but once you're actually playing the game, it's a lot more technical, a lot more development in the little things that I feel like a lot of guys don't get at that lower level just because that is those coaches' main jobs. A lot of my coaches at George Fox had other jobs and stuff, so it wasn't like their only thing they were doing. But you just notice that the speed of the game and the size of the guys and just the little things are a lot better at that bigger level.
Yeah, I mean, you have like your physics teacher as your position coach or something, whereas like at Oklahoma State, like your position coach, that's his job, man.
Oh, yeah,
He gets paid, and that's all he does.
exactly.
Um, cool. So, let's talk a little bit more about scheming, and really how you were used. I mean, um, so again, wide receiver, big guy, good target to throw to, probably a good red zone guy. Of
Mhm.
course, you find the guy who's the tallest one, toss it up there, and boom, like he just comes down with it. Um, as you were, I guess, transitioning, how were you used in that regard? Like, any certain routes you were doing? I mean, were you doing special teams at all?
Well, so at the beginning of the season, I was supposed to redshirt, and so I wasn't really put on special teams because that still burns the red shirt that counts as playing in a game. And so by the time halfway through the season that we did decide I was playing, those special teams rosters had already been the lineups and stuff had already been decided. And so I did get put at second string KOR, but the guy in front of me was like a staple in the KOR. So unless he got hurt or didn't want to take a rep, then I was in there. But that never happened. So I didn't really get in on that. But and in terms of routes done after every single practice in the spring and the beginning of fall or throughout all of fall camp and then a little bit into the season, he would make me stay after with Trayson Wallace, who was I think his official position is the GA, I believe, or he just graduated. Now he's actually, I apologize, Trayson, if you end up watching this. But he would make me stay after with him and catch over the shoulder balls and jump balls because he said that's going to be your specialty here. That's what we really need you to
Sure.
do. So that was what I was really focusing on there.
And as you had mentioned, again, the initial idea for Oklahoma State, which I know that because I've talked to the people that work there, was again just they wanted to really redshirt you. They wanted to acclimate you to the program and then put you in like full force next this
Yeah.
upcoming season. But everybody's going down to injuries, and dude, being the team player that you are, I mean, obviously you took it upon yourself to say, okay, fine, I'll go out there and I'll play.
Yeah.
So, which I think is great. I think a lot of people appreciate you doing that, and that's certainly kudos to you for being a team player. But I do want to kind of I don't know, kind of reminisce about a couple of things. I mean, let's go back to George Fox and talk to
Uh-huh.
me about, like, I don't know, the best game that you are a part of, or best memory that you have being out there. Can you share with me one of those things?
I think one of my favorite memories from I'll say my last season there was telling myself that I wanted to be an All-American, but not really knowing what that entailed. Like I looked up stats of guys the seasons before, and I was like, that is a lot of yards to get in 10 games. I was like, I don't know if that's really a possibility, but I set that goal out for myself, and I really wanted to. And then I believe the first game that we played that year was against Redlands, and I had 165 yards and 3 touchdowns. And after that, I was like, okay, I think I can do this. Like that kind of cemented in my brain. And then the next game we played Chapman, I believe, and I had another, I think it was 130 or 140 with 2 touchdowns. And so I was like, okay, if I can continue this and just continue being myself, I can do this. And it all accumulating to actually achieving that goal and getting that. I think I got a text from my coach or an email or whatever it was telling me that I'd won it. Was definitely my favorite memory about being there, and my that's about the biggest goal I think I've reached that I set for myself.
Gotcha. And let's just kind of talk about this year with Oklahoma State. Again, didn't really plug you in immediately. Took several weeks for you to get some time, but once you did get an opportunity, you were able to go out there and compete at the highest level against the highest level of competition, going from D3 to D1, which is kind of awesome. Um, Talk about maybe one of those games that you were part of this past season, and maybe even a specific play.
So the first game that really I got my time in, West Virginia was the third game I played in, with the first two being Central Arkansas and ASU, which I didn't really play much. And so then Cincy was the first game I was the full-fledged starter after all the injuries and stuff. And I was a little like wary about it just because I hadn't I was never named the starter until that week, and I was still a little iffy on this red shirt thing. But Casey Dunn had continued to tell me, he's like, "Don't worry about the red shirt. This is still your fourth game. Like it's still intact after this," which it really wasn't in hindsight. But but getting out there in Cincy, and we have a we have a play that's designed for if it's one receiver on the left or one receiver on the right, you have a go route, and that ball is coming to you no matter what if that safety's not over the top. And I saw that the safety wasn't there, and I was like, this ball's coming to me, and got a 65-yard reception. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I can play up here. I'm fine up here. And that was definitely the highlight for me, like getting out there and actually performing and doing what I know I could do, and kind of proving those people wrong that had doubts in the D3 to D1 transfer. So that kind of shut them up a little bit. But that was really the highlight, I think, for me this season. That kind of woke
Yeah,
me up.
hey, I mean, you love proving these people wrong, going out there and really competing, like you said. I mean, having what you said, like a 65 yarder or something of that
Yeah.
nature, really, really excellent play. So you obviously have this past season finished up there at Oklahoma State. And so what's going on? The season's over with up until more or less, not we'll get to the pro day and such, but before the pro day, like what was going on for you? Like, what were you training at a particular facility, or what were you doing?
So right after the our bowl game against Texas A&M, my agent was there, and I officially signed with them, SunWest Sports, Frank Bauer and Kenny Chapman. And I signed with them, and then I got to go home for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, see my family for a little bit, and then they flew me out to Huntington Beach, California, where I trained at a facility called EBS, which is partially owned by Marcus Epps. And so I got to hang out with him, and there were a couple other guys there that were training and stuff, and trained with a lot of like more West Coast guys, a lot of US, or there's USC, UCLA, Cal, guys from like more of the Western schools, with a couple from FAMU, Florida A&M, and one from Bowling Green. And so I was out there for 8 weeks, trained with his name is Sip. He runs TNT facility. He was the one doing our 40 training and lift training, but we worked out at EBS. And then was just training out there, lived out there by myself for about 8 weeks, and then went to Oklahoma for the last month before the pro day, and lived with my girlfriend and was training out there for the last month before the pro day happened.
Nice. So, and obviously this year, I mean, was a little different as to how the Big 12 was going to do their pro days. They basically said, let's take all these teams and let's put them all together, and
Yeah.
let's have this enormous pro day, so that everybody's kind of in the same area. Um, how did that work for you, man? I mean, I did get at least one number for you, which I thought was really good, which was, a 10-10 broad jump, which, looking at a guy of your size, I mean, that to me is just kind of, you know, uh, something awesome, at least just to even just, witness. But talk about your pro day and maybe how you felt about it.
Well, so for me, a lot of people were kind of iffy on this Big 12 Pro Day because a lot of them were happy about the comfort of having it at their school, and but for me, I never really knew what that looked like because George Fox doesn't hold their own pro days. They don't have a pro day like that, and so I wasn't really sure what that entailed or anything. And so for me, it wasn't like a big change like it would be for a lot of those other guys that went with me. But I really enjoyed it. I was really happy with my results. I think my official was a 4.52 or a 4.54 40, and which my goal that I set out for myself was a 4.49 at least. I just wanted those first two numbers to read 4.4, but I'm not upset about it. I was just more upset with that I didn't reach the goal that I set. But all the scouts and stuff were telling me that they were happy with it. They were like, a lot of guys said that they were expecting to run a 4.6 or like a high 4.6, and I was like, okay, I'm not that slow. But
I mean, in the 4.5s for you, just so that you understand, I mean, those are not terrible numbers.
no,
I
yeah,
mean, obviously, if you're running 4.47 and it's a guy your size, that's going to that's going to, blast you off on everyone's draft boards and everything. And people are going to look at you as like the next Calvin Johnson or something crazy like that. And so I get it. I get what you're trying to get. But dude, you had a fairly decent pro day.
no,
Uh,
yeah, I was
so
very happy with it.
uh, so obviously you have an opportunity at your pro day to sit down with some scouts and do some interviews. Give me a ballpark, man. How many teams were did you talk to? Do you have that number?
I think I talked to 6 or 7 teams there. The first day they were all there for our interview time, but unfortunately, have you ever heard of the S2 cognition
Yeah,
test?
that thing is a yeah. I
No,
know what
no,
it is.
that was a lot harder than I was expecting. But so I had to take that, and that takes about 40 minutes. And so they were like, "We need to get you that." But then, as soon as they were walking me away, the Ravens came out, and they're like, "Leon Johnson." And so then they're okay, go talk to some of the scouts, and then we'll get you the test. So then I talked to the Ravens right away, and then right after I was done with the Ravens, I talked to the Dolphins. And right as I was getting it from the Dolphins, I'm walking to the guy to take me the test, and then both the Bills and the Broncos, they're like, "Leon," and I was like, and I'm standing there looking at the guy taking me the test. I'm looking at the two teams, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do right now? And the guy taking me the test, like, okay, go to the Broncos. We'll have you go to the Bills after, and then we'll take you the test. So I talked to the Broncos, and then as I got from the Broncos, the Cardinals pulled me aside, and I talked to the Cardinals. And then the Bills were talking to my teammate Arlen Bruce at the time, and so then the Bills were busy, and then he was like, okay, if we're gonna have you take the test, we need to go take the test. So then I left to take the test, and he said, we'll have you talk to the Panthers and the Bills later, because I didn't even know the Panthers wanted to talk to me, but he said that the Panthers wanted to talk to me. And then the next day I talked to the Colts, and then I talked a little bit more to the Ravens that next day, and then the Bengals are gonna call me at some point, and then the Cowboys sent me this little personality test thing, which was very interesting to take. But other than that, those are the
I
teams that
mean,
I talked.
overall, let's just kind of sum it up in that there was a hell of a lot of interest.
No, yeah.
And obviously in those settings, teams are literally fighting over you, man. Like they're trying to get to know you, trying to, obviously get all of your information in their system. They want to meet you, obviously do whatever testing, personality testing.
Yeah.
And yes, the cognition test that you took is different. A lot of more teams are looking at that more so than the
Oh, yeah.
Wonderlic. And so definitely something that's the S2 cognition. Yeah, that's something that is yeah, I know what you're talking about. So um do want to kind of move on in our talk, which has been fun. Is there anything else about this Leon Johnson guy that we need to know before we close up, man? Anything special, any interests, you know, anything else you're passionate about? I mean, anything that you want to mention before we close up?
I'm really big on movies. Any movie recommendation that I always look at the reviews, but I don't really listen to reviews. But I watch a lot of movies and TV shows. I enjoy hanging out with friends and stuff, playing video games. Back home with some good Wi-Fi. I haven't had good Wi-Fi for the past couple months, so having that is definitely a perk. But other than that, I just enjoy being around people, love my friends and family, and I love meeting people. I'll never decline a conversation with somebody, so that's definitely who I am.
Well, so far I feel like this conversation's done well, and quite honestly, Leon, we could talk for like another half an hour, but I do need to close up our time, and really want to give you the last word. Tell these teams why you need to be either drafted, signed, part of their franchise. Why do they need to give you an opportunity, and what would they be getting if they did? So close us with your final thoughts.
I think that I get the job done with the job that I'm given. If you need me to block, I will block. If you need me to go out and catch the deep balls, I'm gonna go out and catch those deep balls. I love learning. That is something that I've been told by all my coaches is that I'm a fast learner. I pick things up fast, and so coming from George Fox, my underdeveloped like the little things about route running and stuff. I developed that a lot under the tutelage of Casey Dunn. And so once I feel like if I once at that level and even having a personal trainer, I've trained with Steve Calhoun this while I was in California and just developing that further. I feel like that the roof is not even close to being scratched yet. And so I think that you pick me, there's just a lot more to come out of me that I haven't been able to show yet, just because of the opportunities that I haven't come across.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we have just scratched the surface, man. So I
No,
mean, it'll be exciting to see where you end up, who gives you the opportunity. I do feel like there is going to be a team that will give you an opportunity here very soon. And Leon, we just want to wish you all the best with what you got going on. You have a Seahawks local, day that you're doing, and so that'll certainly be fun. We'll see what comes of
for
all of
sure.
that, but otherwise, man, best of luck in everything you got going on, and you take care. Cool.
Thank you. You too.
All right, thanks, man. Once again, I had with me Leon Johnson, wide receiver out of Oklahoma State, previously out of George Fox, where he was an All-American. Thank you for watching.